Ayahuasca, Pharmahuasca. Drinky DMT, drinky DMT. What's the difference? Let's find out. Ayahuasca has received an almost legendary notoriety as being one of the most hardcore psychedelic experiences you can go through. And it's for a pretty good reason. Because it is. It tastes like burnt dirt, it can give you very uncomfortable body feelings, it makes you throw up, and if you're particularly unlucky, then you can end the night with your pants full of piping hot liquid shit. Still, that doesn't put some people off trying it at home through a brew made with ayahuasca analogues called Pharmahuasca, and I will happily disclose that I was one of those people. It was about 6 years ago and I decided I wanted to test the waters before committing to a trip to South America. So, I did some research online, I got myself some easily obtainable Syrian rue seeds which contains an MAOI, and I combined it with the spice that I already had lurking around the house to make Pharmahuasca. In total, I did it around 4 or 5 times versus the 30 plus times that I've drank ayahuasca, and for those times I did Pharmahuasca, I had a fucking blast, and I would definitely recommend it as an experience, with a few caveats which I'll get into later. I have a video that goes into more details for how you can actually make the stuff, so check that out if you want the full explanation. But for this video, let's cut to the $1 million question. Is the Pharmahuasca experience the same as the ayahuasca experience? No. For a more detailed explanation, I'll start off with talking about the actual physical bodily feel of the experience. Pharmahuasca is much easier on the body than ayahuasca is. In fact, with Pharmahuasca, I didn't really experience any of the kinds of the body load, nausea or vomiting that I get from ayahuasca. On ayahuasca, I am pretty much guaranteed to puke, at least puke. And on a few occasions, that's also been accompanied by explosive diarrhea, and then the only question that's on my mind is, can I actually control my asshole long enough to make it to the toilet? And that's actually a lot trickier than it sounds when you're having an out-of-body experience in trans-dimensional hyperspace. Anyway, with Pharmahuasca, I didn't get any of that discomfort, which I'm sure at first glance looks like a win-win situation. But I don't necessarily think it is, because a big part of doing ayahuasca is in the physical ordeal. That's kind of what you sign up for. It's a very challenging experience on every level, and as those feelings occur within your body, then they manifest within the experience. The most commonly reported version of this is that people talk about feeling like all their troubles or pains is being pulled into one place within their stomach, which then gets purged out of them. Now, having been through that with ayahuasca, whether or not you actually believe that you are literally purging out your trauma, I can tell you that that is what it feels like. Your problems feel like they come out of you, and you almost instantly feel better for it. And at that point, the experience will usually explode into a state of euphoria that no other psychedelic can really match. So again, I'm not saying that you are literally purging out your trauma. That's a whole different conversation. What I'm saying is that the feeling of doing so has its own merit, which to me is desirable, because otherwise, well, I wouldn't do it. So that's the physical aspect covered, but what about the psychedelic headspace? Well, I would describe Pharmahuasca as feeling very clean. It's much more orderly and is easier to cope with than ayahuasca. And there could be a number of different reasons for that. You know, ayahuasca is known for containing a whole bunch of different alkaloids, many of which we don't even know what they do in isolation. So there is a chemical reason why the experiences might feel different. But honestly, that's just pure speculation. Pharmahuasca also seemed a lot more consistent in my experience, with each one of my trips playing out pretty much along the same lines, which again makes it a lot less challenging once you know what to expect. Ayahuasca in comparison is a very chaotic experience, especially during the come up when all sorts of weird shit starts going down. And the spectrum of possible outcomes on ayahuasca seems vastly wider than it is with Pharma, with everything ranging from earthly, organic, spiritual plant vibes to hacking the secret programming language of the universe. Everything is a lot more intense with ayahuasca, with colours and visuals and emotions all ramped up to 11. And Pharma, in comparison, is a lot more mellow. Now, as with all tryptamines like LSD, psilocybin, smoked DMT, there are some parallels which let you know that you're in the same family of chemicals. But just as with all the substances I just mentioned, they each have their unique character, and Pharmahuasca, compared with Ayahuasca, is no exception. So, the fact of the matter is, they do feel different. Now, I don't want to give the impression that Pharmahuasca is a weak or somehow diluted experience, not at all. You know, one time I did it with one of my friends and he went completely off his mash, and yeah, that's a story for another time. But the point here is that you need to treat Pharmahuasca with respect, particularly in regards to what you put into your body before and after. Just like with Ayahuasca, Pharmahuasca has the same contraindications around certain types of medications, particularly those prescribed for depression. And you also need to avoid certain food types because these two, in some cases, can be quite dangerous when used in conjunction with MAOIs. I'm not going to go into super detail about the diet and medication stuff, there's plenty of that online, but I will say do your homework and treat Pharmahuasca pretty much as if you're going to take Ayahuasca. Anyway, back to the experience. For me, Pharmahuasca was a very pleasant trip, and doing it was actually the catalyst that cemented that feeling of, yeah, I want to go and experience this in its natural form in the jungle setting. And spoilers for those who haven't seen those videos of when I did Ayahuasca, it was fucking amazing. So now I'll talk a little bit about the final part of this comparison, which is what can you get out of each of these experiences, and why might you lean towards one as opposed to the other? Clearly, both of these experiences are as psychedelic as it gets, so if you're purely just after a trippy time, then either one of them has you covered. Personally, I see Pharmahuasca as a kind of a stepping stone to Ayahuasca, and since doing Ayahuasca, I haven't been back to Pharma. That's not because I've turned my back on it for any particular reason, it's just that I haven't felt that specific calling, and I usually end up drinking Ayahuasca anyway a couple of times a year, so that itch gets scratched there. For me, the real difference comes down to this element of healing and the intention of, why are you taking this substance? I do see Ayahuasca as being medicinal, and when I work with it, I do so with intention to try and resolve issues. And I never got that same feeling from Pharmahuasca that it had these kind of same possibilities. It just didn't seem like it was like plumbed into the same kind of healing mechanisms, so to speak. I mean, it is insanely trippy. I mean, it's consciousness expanding, it's all the stuff you would expect from any classic psychedelic, but not healing, at least from my experience. And honestly, I think a big part of that might come from the set and setting. There is an influence of being in a retreat setting with a shaman that feels more conducive to this experience of healing. And I'm totally willing to accept that that might be completely psychosomatic, but that is my experience. Okay guys, I hope you found that one useful. It's a subject I've been meaning to tackle for a while, and I was given a bit of a kick up the arse by a couple of my subscribers, so big thanks to them. And if anyone has any other suggestions for subjects you want me to cover in these videos, drop me a message in the comments, or on Reddit, or on Discord, or on Instagram, or on any of the numerous platforms that I try and have a presence on. These guys here get a special tip of the hat for supporting the show, and in return they get access to some extra content and features over on Discord. So if you want to become a patron of the channel and help me finance some new gear or some new CGI graphics, or to buy me a delicious cup of ayahuasca, then head on over to Patreon and press some buttons there. Speaking of ayahuasca, as soon as the travel restrictions are lifted, presumably sometime in 2021, I'm going to be doing a retreat in Peru. So if anyone wants to come with me, then that's something I will let you know about closer to the time, and maybe we can arrange like an Adeptus Psychonaut travel group. It's just another thought that's been going around my head while I've been pondering this idea of community. But yeah, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Other than that, thanks as always for watching, and I will see you guys next time.